was watching him. He seems a little techy.
Yes, he is. Good evening, everyone. We are going to get started. Welcome to our Committee of the Whole for Thursday, November the 10th, 2022. We're going to just start our discussions with our committee reports. First up is education. Good evening.
Okay, so we're going to go through a couple academic updates this evening, provided you guys with folders and whatnot that we can just take a look at a few things as we briefly take a 3-month touch point of where we're going and what's up next. So excitingly, we were able to begin our K-2 literacy series adoption. We've implemented our new literacy series in our K-2 classrooms across our district. And part of the feedback, as you may remember from a prior session where teachers, especially at the kindergarten center, were discussing the need for a phonemic program in the lower grades. So as part of the literacy series that you guys voted on and adopted, we also incorporated Sax and Phonics into our repertoire for our K1 and 2 students. So also Sax and Phonics has been begun to be delivered in our K-2 classrooms. And also, as we have rolled out a new literacy series, we worked to implement a pacing guide and a timing guide so that the master bell schedule that we initially rolled out, a systematized breakdown of proposed recommended timing periods for what that looks like within a 114 or 116-minute block for literacy in kindergarten and second grade. So I provided that in your folders as well, so you guys can see what some of the proposed stuff is that we provided for our K-2 folks. In your folders also, we've been working, and I give our team of 2 here, myself and Dr. Reddick Smack, a lot of credit, and our wonderful Southeast Delco teachers who have supported the revamping of our literacy framework. So what we have proposed, and we have sent out a draft version of a 8th grade literacy framework in your folders in front of you, and this was released to principals about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, just for some preliminary discussion and feedback. Next step, we'd like to incorporate our teachers' feedback to get some guidance and feedback in terms of that. What we have is a literacy framework, writing guidance, and also a pacing guide for our 8th grade students. And again, this was done in-house. This was done by Southeast Delco teachers in consult with obviously our administration and our folks here at central office. So we're previewing that now. Next step, as I mentioned, we'd love to get some 8th grade teachers involved so that we can take a look at that as well. And if everything goes well, we'd love to get 7th grade as a preview out to our principals and the board for next month. As we know, a focus in our buildings, in our 1 to 8 buildings, has been a intervention block and a writing focus in our schools. I give our teachers and principals and assistant principals a ton of credit. We know that writing is so important, not just in literacy, but also in math and science and social studies. And what we have is a systematized focus in a lot of our buildings where even our math teachers are really starting to focus on not just the components of how the mathematics are computed, but also how does that look and how does that translate into the written form. So our teachers are doing a great job going step by step and working with our principals and our students to ensure that we have a district-wide writing focus. We also started a intervention block in our 1 through 8 buildings that began in October, and these are meant to be fluid, and what that would actually mean is that once a student is assigned to an intervention period or block, that our principals and teachers work with the students to find out their areas of need. And there's already conversations, even though we just started this in October, that some students might be better placed in other intervention cycles and whatnot. So our principals are working with our teachers to make sure that that occurs in those buildings. Moving on to K-9 math. We met with the DCIU. We previewed to our principals the first draft of a 8th grade middle school math framework for our middle school students. Feedback was sent back, and we're trying to plan a next step meeting with our administration and now our teachers to engage to get some feedback and dialogue into what the next generation of our math framework will look like. If all goes well, we would love to start a soft trial for at least grade 8 in February from this new revamped curriculum that we are developing. But we need to incorporate feedback from our teachers. We have feedback from principals and assistant principals, but we need to get feedback from our teachers to see what other adjustments, what's working, what isn't resonating as well. So that we're hoping that we can coordinate that for December to get that initial wave of teacher feedback before we go any further. And last but certainly not least, I want to touch briefly on instructional technology because there are 2 agenda items that we are going to discuss. First thing, we want to talk about the professional development. We added a module to our securely internet streaming package that we have in our district. It's called for Classroom Monitoring. This is applicable to all grades in grades 1 through 12, basically any student that's using a Chromebook. So our teachers had an initial wave of professional development on Tuesday. Tuesday is a virtual professional development day, and our teachers all in even grades K through 12 engaged in a webinar system of professional development for Securely. And in a nutshell, what this enables our teachers to do, if they're running a guided reading group or they're running small group, they can have their laptop out and see the interactions of all the students in the classroom. So that was a key piece of feedback that we heard and resonated, that a lot of our teachers, like, we want to do guided activities, we want to break out in small groups, but we want to make sure that we're also actively monitoring the interactions of students. So this enables that. Obviously, we just launched this, so we got some areas where it's working great, and we still have some technical issues that we have to work out. It all runs through the Google Suite, so we have to configure some stuff with there. But we're going to continue doing that. This is a pretty common module that's used in a lot of districts. It's new to us, but it will absolutely allow for teachers to better monitor. And an agenda item that you'll see on your agenda is that we're proposing that we acquire document cameras for all of our district classrooms. Now, I have a picture up here of a TI-84 calculator and then a notes that a teacher is writing. Part of the feedback when we talk to teachers, especially in the middle school level, is that while the calculators are a great tool, our students and our teachers, we're still learning all the computing power that comes along with that. So teachers were asking for a solution. How do we show the students, as we're instructing in front of everyone, how do we show the students what button to push and where the second button is to shift up to the next level? So a document camera will not just solve that one issue. There's a million other things that we can do with a document camera, but this is a huge thing for us as educators to put the calculator underneath that, put a document camera above, and then the teacher can walk students through and actually see their finger, what buttons they're pushing and how they're manipulating using the technology. So that's one of the agenda items on there. The other agenda item for technology is the acquisition of 7 smart board panels for our Night Academy. When we did our initial rollout, the high school had LED projectors installed prior to me coming here. The smart boards were initiated from last year. Night Academy does not have any, so that came from a direct request from some of the teachers and the administration from Night Academy, so that's included in the notes for today, along with the document camera proposal. And I talked about the curriculum work with the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. And the only other thing is we have an updated field trip proposal that was submitted for the month of November in all your folders. There's 2 additional sites that principals and teachers have requested the ability to go to. One is a technical training center in Philadelphia, and the other one is the Delaware County Intermediate Unit. Any questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not a teacher, but I know that we have substitutes and other teachers that come in. How easily is this technology to use when they're coming in just for a week or a couple weeks, for continuity purposes, for them to pick it up and then continue to move on?
It's a great question. So the smart boards in the classrooms are power on, power off. Like, we can hook up a computer to a smart board and you can instantly project with minimal technical ability. To manipulate and to write on it is a different story. Like, to be able to actually physically move things around, log into a huge plethora of some of the advanced features of a smart board would require the teacher's laptop, the teacher's smart notebook, the Lumio account that is on the teacher's stuff. But to project kind of like what we're doing here can happen just by plugging a cable in. Same thing for a document camera. The Securely system I just talked about is directly linked to a teacher's Google Classroom profile, and that's just so that we know, so the Securely system can pull up what kids should be rostered into that individual classroom. So a substitute necessarily would not have access to that level of student data. So the classroom monitoring feature of Securely would not be applicable for a substitute. Any other questions?
Okay.
All right, thank you, guys.
Hello. Relatively light for the rest of the education agenda. Number one is the out-of-district placements for 4 special ed students. Number 2 is an out-of-district placement for a different special ed student at a different out-of-district placement. 3 is just an addendum to a contract. One student we are providing services for. The adult with that child went from a PCA to an RBT, so the rate for that service for that adult is going to change. And then the 4 expulsions, most of them happened a little while ago, but the agreements were not wrapped up in time for the October board meeting. There are 2 weapons, 1 mace and 1 pocket knife. And then the 2 that say discipline were a result of the after-school issue at Sharon Hill dismissal on the 14th of October. That was a Friday afternoon. Any questions on any of the remaining education items?
I do have a question. For number 4, you said that it was mace
One of the weapons was discharge of mace.
and a pocket knife.
One was a pocket knife.
So, I see the date, 9/29 and 10/27. Okay,
Okay.
all right, I just want to know the date.
Understand? Yep.
Regarding the discipline, have you been suspended prior?
I believe they have not, well, I don't want to say what they were or not suspended for. Are you talking about suspended for this incident or just suspended in general?
In general,
I believe they had been suspended in general for other incidents, yes.
okay. And, for number 3, the pediatric therapeutic services, is this something ongoing we're gonna?
So we already have a contract with them. It's just a change because of that change in the adult service for the one child.
Okay, adult as in 18 or older?
No. So one of our special education students has an adult that works with them.
Okay.
They got differently credentialed, and that new credential comes at a different rate of cost to the district. That's why the contract needs to be edited. Okay. Thank you.
Next, we have finance.
Good evening, everyone. A number of months ago, Mrs. Peter Coe had asked if we could start doing quarterly reports on primarily finances. So this is going to be the first report. You will note that this will cover a period 1 month after September 30th, which would have been the first quarter. I did the October 30th because I wanted to collect information on charter school numbers, and it would have been a better complement of numbers looking for the October date. They're in your folders. Packets are in your folder. Oh, look. No, it's on the left-hand side. It's on the left-hand side. Over there. The left-hand side of that. That's not it? Here. Does everyone else have theirs? This document is also going to be posted on the website tomorrow. So again, so here's the areas that I'm going to, and that is not the right one. Just bear with me a second, folks.
All right, good evening. So for Human Resources, we are going to begin on page 2. We have a resignation for one of our classified employees. We have 3 resignations for our professional employees at 3 different buildings. On page 3, we are approving 1 professional employee at this time. We have 2 classified employees that we want to approve employment for at this time. And we have to amend 2 assignments, 1 for a professional employee and 1 for a classified employee. The last 2 items on this page, on page 3, is the approval of a 21st century lead teacher at each of our, 2 of our 1 to 8 buildings. They are going to split that with another individual who was previously granted that position. So it's pretty light this time around. That is all I have for that portion. The next piece that I handed each of our board members is just an update from our previous meeting. If you look on here under number 1, there are 3 positions that have been added since our last time together for Committee of the Whole. That is our safety security officer, 6th grade classroom teacher. We are adding a teacher to reduce the number of students in each classroom at our Darby Township School. And we are adding 1 classroom at Delcroft for a classroom reduction as well. We look down at number 2 for our vacancies. We have 1 addition to Delcroft, which is the position that has been added. We have 2 positions at Darby Township, both in the form of resignations. We have 1 position at Harris that is in the form of a resignation that is new. And at Academy Park, we have 3 positions that are new since our last time together. We're going to fast forward down to number 5. Again, those are the resignations, the 3 of those that we just touched on in our Committee of the Whole notes. the one for Academy Park, Darby Township, and Harris. And we have one transfer that we are working on at Darby Township School with one of our first grade teachers going from the classroom into a math interventionist position. So we will have to fill that position and then release her to those new duties. So that is my report. Are there any questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any empty classrooms?
You said empty classroom?
I mean, empty, yeah, for a teacher. Like, do we have any
You mean space?
positions?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do some moving, but there will be a space for those individuals.
Maybe
Are you
I'm
talking about the new additions at Darby Township School and Delcroft School?
not asking the right question. So,
She's saying our classrooms without teachers.
okay, yeah.
And
That-
the answer is yes. The list is next to each of their rooms and number 2.
It's under number 2.
So that's the teacher, that's the classroom that's empty, so Case Center doesn't have a math intervention
I got you, so I understand.
50, is that the answer? Altogether, yes.
So it's just a question. The State of the Union of sorts, from your perspective, you're out there and hiring these positions, and there's a risk that we have right now with the positions being open. The difficulty in filling these positions is multifaceted, it's just amazing, the number of things that we have to overcome in order to fill a position. If you were back against the wall to try to come up with a time frame for, based on your efforts, based on the market,
I wouldn't
how
provide
long
one.
would these,
I wouldn't provide one because it's so unpredictable right now. It's really at the mercy of the applicants who are applying into our databases. So that's sometimes, again, I interviewed and some people get all the way through. We might do 2 rounds and we get to the end and they're like, I'm going to rescind my application and there are finalists. So again, it's just so unpredictable.
or is there anything else that programs or things that we are doing, or that we can do in order to move that needle?
Certainly.
Is it financial things or
Everything's
just?
a cost.
Because
Everything's a cost.
The reason,
And
only,
everything comes down to the resources that we have available to actually produce some of the solutions for those needs.
so have we proposed any of those programs so that we could consider saying yes to the programs or saying no to those programs?
You're talking about outside agencies to fill some of these positions. Yeah, we're working with all of those that we have that come in. So whether it's a recommendation, if it's somebody we already deal with, like one of our companies bought out like 4 or 5 different companies. So they're able to tap into those systems. But if it's just one company that only deals with their company and they don't have, let's say, speech pathologists, then I have to see who can offer me a speech pathologist or a school counselor or some other special certification.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
You finished?
You
Go ahead.
need time, go ahead.
I have a question. 2 things. Are we offering any bonuses at this moment?
Not right now.
Okay. Second question, are we able to have some sort of hiring event?
So 2 things. Let me go back to the first one.
Okay.
We are doing a bonus with our substitute teacher service.
Okay.
There is a bonus for that company. Your second question was a hiring event. So a lot of what's spoken about from other human resource directors, there's some that's really well attended and some that are not. If you remember on our last board meeting, we had 7 total applicants in about a 2 to 3 hour event. 5 of them stopped at our table. We interviewed 2. Neither one of them came on board. So that's just one. Some of what I see is now virtual. Some of them used to be free virtually. Now there's packages. And they're pretty expensive, so I did start looking through those. But again, we are looking to see what other events there are in the area, whether it's NPA or in one of our touching states, Delaware, Jersey.
Are we allowed to disclose that bonus? What is the bonus that you said we're offering?
It's a contract that has already been completed. So the board, we did discuss that, but I can discuss it next week.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two questions. One, is every open position we have posted? And then my second question is, are we doing anything to work, I don't know if this is HR, but is there anything that we can do to work with local colleges to try to, do we have any student teachers? Like, are we trying to pull student teachers? I know it doesn't fix the problem, but it would give us extra bodies and maybe hopefully future employees.
So your first question was postings. So postings are up for a certain amount of time. Once they expire, then there has to be a reposting. So we are trying to keep up when those items expire, whether it's through our building leadership. Most of the time, they're good at, hey, I don't see my first grade opening anymore. We'll go back in, check the timeline, and do a repost. So they are, great at letting us know that that's not up there anymore if we didn't find an applicant within that time. Your second question, as far as student teachers, we have reached out to, with the help of Dr. Lowry and the curriculum department, we are working on looking at some student teachers from some different colleges and universities. They have to really do the request and initiate that. We can talk to like the education department, but again, they have to put that in motion to come. But there also has to be a cooperating teacher who's willing to take them in our district. So sometimes it's not worth all of what you have to do in order to have a student teacher in your classroom, whether it's a financial, whatever the university is offering, or a free course. So we also have to have someone to be that person's cooperating teacher once we say yes. So there is a commitment level that has to happen there as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more question. So if I personally knew of a couple student teachers, how would I inform them? What are the steps they would take to become a student teacher, if there are steps to take? What would
So
they be?
they have to, a lot of it comes through the university. Once they get to a certain level, their university tells them to start taking a look at, this region, this is where we want you to do your student teaching. So once they reach out to us and we get in contact, back with the university, then the ball kind of starts rolling from there. Right now, we don't have very many. We have like some nurses but as far as professional staff, there's not many that I know of. Counselor we have, but not a whole lot of people are coming through the pipeline for teaching. It's not like it was 15, 20 years ago where they're pumping out an abundance of teachers. Our science department, again, I talked about it last month. Our math department, those are like high need certifications, and everybody's looking for them. We did just hire a math individual, so happy about that. We interviewed a math individual today. I'm almost certain that I will onboard that person as well. Those are our 1 to 8 buildings. But high school, once you get into those other certifications, chemistry, biology, and some of that high-level math, it adds that much more difficulty. So it all goes
Great
by
question.
certification levels. Like elementary, it was a kindergarten to 6th grade, now it's a pre-K to 4. And you have to do an add-on cert.
Really?
Middle school, 7 to 9, some of them are 7 to 12, some of them are specifically for a course. So again, it all comes down to what are they certified in, what are they qualified to teach, because we want highly qualified teachers in front of our students. Now, we can, we've done some things and worked with some individuals as well that may not have those high quality credentials and just make sure that they are working, you know, within that vein to get highly qualified.
That's good. I just wanted to mention, we were talking about student teachers. And correct me if I'm wrong regarding student teachers compared to the subs, because the subs aren't necessarily certified. Is that correct?
Some of them are, some
Okay.
of them are not. It also depends where the substitutes are coming from. So if they're coming from an agency, they might have an emergency certification for day-to-day, or they might have a certification for long-term. It might have an obligation for education, or it might just be long-term without an educational obligation. So there's all different types of even emergency certifications that can be received.
Okay, so that would make an emergency certification accessible for someone who doesn't have
Correct.
it. Okay. So for instance, like Widener has a really strong MSW program, and Penn with their MPH program. And I heard you say, in terms of them reaching out to us, are we also actively reaching out to like grad schools to recruit?
Actively, I wouldn't really use that word. That's kind of strong.
Okay.
Are we doing it? In drips and drabs.
Okay,
Again, everything comes down to, we have to have the resources in district to be able to do that. What we're talking about is basically a full-time recruiter.
okay. And when you have folks coming on to support you, right? Isn't that what we
There's a
discussed
plan,
last time?
there's a plan for
Right,
additional assistance.
right, for HR, okay, great.
Yes.
And, I had one more thing. The subs, right? So if I'm a parent and my child has a consistent sub, let's say I'm in a class and, I don't know, I'm in ninth grade biology, right? My child's in ninth grade biology, and the biology teacher is not there, but this class is subbed, right? Often we hear about subs not being teachers. Can we talk about a mandate for subs to actually teach the classes? I don't know, maybe this is a
That
Dr.
comes
Ryan
down
question, I'm not
to-
sure. but-
Yeah, that's a different discussion.
Okay,
That's a rabbit hole. So
Okay.
there's some things that have to be in place in order for that to happen.
okay, yeah, we definitely need to talk about that, because students still need to learn, whether it's a sub with an emergency certification or whether it's a permanent teacher, the students still need to learn.
Correct. The expectation still needs to be the same.
Right,
There is one other program coming out of the intermediate unit that is new. Talked about it last year, it's new this year, so it's still kind of in the works, and that is trying to tap students in high school that might be interested in becoming teachers. But again, that's kind of grassroots at this point, but we're trying to see who would like to go in that line of work and, you know, really encourage them to, you know, what steps and what does it look like in order to be on the track to a teaching career. So that's a program that is in development right now, because again, they've noticed, you know, there's a state problem, but there's also a national problem with our teacher shortage.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have one question. You cannot tell me, obviously, when we're going to have these positions filled, but what about your support in the HR department so that we could have a group of people doing all the work of hiring? Is there an estimated time frame for that?
I don't have that right now at this time.
When I asked about if I knew some student teachers, then what would be the protocol? Have we ever tapped into any alumni, like, you know, recruiting alumni or interest meeting for alumni students or something along those lines?
Have we ever?
I mean,
Not
I'm
sure that we have.
Yeah, like, because I do, when I said that, I had one in mind in particular, and she's actually an alumni and doesn't know what the process is, and giving back to her alma mater. She wants to,
Yeah.
So that's why I asked.
So there's a few, and we like for those students to come back and, because they know pretty much from first grade or kindergarten up to 12th grade, how our schools are designed. So the individual that actually is on our committee of the whole report tonight is a previous district student. So we are, proud to have him back. So a lot of what we're seeing, we have had a few of our alumni come back and fulfill different positions and different roles. So, yeah, if they are interested and if they have the credentials that they need, we certainly encourage them to apply and interview for positions.
Is it simple as sending an email to you?
Yes, and then I can guide them and direct them. Yep.
Excuse me. How about fraternities?
Can you clarify, expand on what you,
Does the HR department have any relationships with any fraternities?
not that I know of.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, back to finance.
Thank you, Dr. Winder. I apologize, I had sent myself the incorrect PowerPoint presentation. So where I left off was I was going to review the tables of content, the table of contents. So in this document, you will find a summary of the 22-23 general fund budget. You will also find historical real estate tax increases, historical Act 1 real estate tax increases, and I'll explain these slides as I reach them. Historical fund balance data, 22-23 charter school activity report, federal programs report concerning ESSER's funding, and the last item will be a communications rebranding initiative. I'm going to move through the slides very quickly. As I said earlier, this will be posted on the district's website. And that will be as of tomorrow. We'll get it posted. So this is the summary of the general fund budget, and this will look familiar to board members and community members. This is just part of the end of one of my presentations during the process. So the total revenue is $103,087,333, and the expenditures are in the same amount. The total millage rate is 31.2716. The next couple of slides will be historical real estate tax calculations. This dates back to 2005-2006 fiscal year, and you can see the last line are what the percentage increases were for those periods of time. So it ranged 5.5, a negative 2.0, 5.5 in 10-11. There was a 12.7% increase, 11-12, 2%. And you can see, I'm not going to read all of them, but you can see what the percentage increases look like over the years. I'd like to draw your attention to the 2021 fiscal year. You will notice that the assessed value in 1920 was $957 million. The assessed value is the commercial and residential properties combined for the district, for Southeast Delco School District. In 2021, the county made a decision to reassess the commercial and residential properties, and you can see the difference from the $957 million to $1,523 million is what the properties increased. When that happens, the highlighted area here, whenever there's a reassessment, there cannot be a tax increase that exceeds the previous year. So it's a neutralization process. you will see that the millage rate, you can see the decrease in the millage rate because of this reassessment amount. So the year before, 1920, it was 3%, 3.9, and it's been consistent through the 22-23 school year. This slide will show the Act 1 tax increases that school districts are permitted to make. So the baseline, and I only have this for 2012-13 up through 22-23. So the baseline for all school districts, all 500 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania back then in 12-13 was 1.7. So school districts couldn't exceed 1.7 as a baseline. The 1.7 is the wealthier school districts in Pennsylvania. And going up to 22-23, the state said that school districts can increase taxes 3.4. Then there's a special calculation that takes place for each individual school district by the state. And in this case, in 12-13, the state said we could increase 2.5. This next column will show that the school board, the school district, increased taxes 0.9%. And you can see how it goes down through the years. 3.1, 3%, 2.8, 2.8, 3.5, 2.5. I'm going to jump here up to, this is the, I'm sorry, wait a minute, I have 2 arrows on there. Sorry about that. I don't know why the one's hanging on there. Dr. Lowry, is that coming from the, that laptop over there? Yeah, thank you. So 18-19 is a unique year, and I'll cover that on the next slide. You'll see 3.6, 3.6. Next year was 3.4. We did 3%, and then we were consistent with 3.9 in the ensuing years. Now, this slide will cover fund balance at the end of each of the school years. So you can see back in 12-13, the district had a fund balance, which in turn, for another term is a savings account of 7.7 million. The year after that, 8.3, and you can see going up through 17-18, where I have a bold line. Drawing your attention to 16-17, there was 7.1. There was a decision made, I assume, to reduce fund balance, and you can see the drop, that it went from 7.1 to 2.5. In 18-19, the fund balance went from 2.5 to a negative 1,180,000. This is when I came into the district August of 2019, and it was my decision that we had to address that negative fund balance with, because that is urgent, that it needed urgent attention. So in that year, the index was 3.6, went 3.6. 1920, we ended the school year with a little under $500,000. We did 3.4, 3%, and then in 2021, we did another 3.9, and we ended the year with a $4.981 million fund balance. I'm projecting that we're going to end the 21-22, June 30th of 22, with a $5.2 million fund balance. In those years, last year, or in 21-22, the state said that we could increase taxes 4.6. We did 3.9. In 22-23, the state said that we can increase taxes 5.1. We did another 3.9. Just to, as I've had conversations with the board, I believe that if you stay consistent, it puts forth a more responsible and constructive budget document. And I believe that people can understand, community members can understand when there's consistency, instead of these significant changes in previous years, and you can see what eventually happened to the fund balance. The next slide is charter school analysis. This is very important for this school district. I went back and found some documents from the 11-12 school year. You'll be able to see this on the website, as I said earlier, by school. But I'm just drawing your attention to, back in 11-12, the total budget, or the total expenditure, I should say, was $2,391,000. We had 230 kids in charter schools. 210 were in regular ed, and 20 were in special education. You can also see the rate difference. Regular ed, $9,078 or $79 for regular ed for the entire year. Special ed, the district has to pay $240,000. And then you can see what happens in the most current years. 21, 22, those rates, $12,543 for regular ed, $39,628 for special ed. This year, $13,173 for regular ed, $41,983 for special ed. Now, the difference, last year we had 500 regular ed kids in charter schools and 130 special ed kids. Total that was expended last year was $11,423,000. 22-23, although there are only 618 kids that are in charter schools, just because of the calculation, the anticipated expenditure is the $11,771,000 in charter school. I'm going to go back to that slide. So in last year, we talked about the tax increase, and we talked about how we can overcome future tax increases. And as I get to the end of the presentation, we'll talk about the communication rebranding process, because this number is, obviously this number is very significant. So the way you deal with this number is that you try to reduce that by attracting families back into the district. And when those families come back, those numbers go down. Again, that is a significant part of this budget. That is a lot of money that is going out for families, students to receive their instruction from educational institutions outside of this district. And if we can somehow find a way or put the focus on bringing families back, that would be key to what the future tax increases look like. That is a huge, so a tax increase at 3.9 is around $1.5 million. You compare it to that number, you'll see what happens. I'll touch on that again when we get to the rebranding piece. We have received a significant amount of money in ESSER's federal programming. This is just the ESSER's portion. So ESSER's 1, we got $1,406,000. We spent that. This is how we spent it. Last year we spent the 1.2. This year we finished it up $118,000. That project's done. That project also had a deadline of September 30th, 21. So we always meet the deadlines because we're always going to spend that money. ESSER's 2, that had a total amount of $5,765,000. You can see that most of that money, as you all have heard, that we've been air conditioning 3 of the buildings. They were the last 3 buildings that needed air conditioning. So the first part of that came out of the ESSER's 2, and then we did some intervention and technology expansion. That project had a deadline date of September of 23. We have exhausted those funds as of June of 22. That project is done. The next grant, ESSER's grant, is the ARP grant. That's the American Recovery. And that had a total, it's being blocked by that by this section here, but it's $11,551,000. You can see that this is the second part of the HVAC project, the 4.8. So everyone knows that project was over $8 million. Mr. Curry will give an update on the status. Had a target date that we would be done that project, Mr. Curry, help me out, by August 31st? No, actually, it was into the 23. It was May of 23. Had a projected completion date. That project was probably 90%, 92% completed before school started. And then you can see the other areas where we're going to spend those funds. This project, through June 30th, we spent $3,694,000. So we have $7.8 million to spend. And it's all planned out. And this has an end date of September of 2024.
The ARP,
This is the ARP.
24.
Yes.
Okay.
And the last ESSERS, this is ARP, and there was a 7% set aside. That has a project amount of $897,784. We have not touched that money yet, but that also has a completion date of September 30th, 2024. And again, we intend, we will spend every penny of that money that I've shown you on that screen. And this will, as you look through the different initiatives that are in here, they are required by the grant, by the funding source, to spend money in these areas. So again, this is dollar for dollar. So these federal dollars does absolutely nothing to fund balance. If we don't spend all this, we give it back. We can't keep it. We just give it back. So that's why we're going to spend all of it. And the last section is communications and rebranding initiative. This conversation, I want to say, started March of 2021. We started talking about it, and part of it, I will say that I initiated the conversation because of that $11 million in charter school expenditures. And I know that in order to reduce that, it takes a different focus on how we present ourselves as a school district. And there are many things happening in the school district that are super positive that we have not bragged about. And this was not only an attempt to reduce expenditures, but it was also to let folks know that how much of a good job the school district is doing, and how well the teachers are teaching, how well the administrators are managing staff, and how well the students are just participating in their educational programming. So we had a kickoff that was in July. We had meetings. We presented. We were to go out and send out surveys to the community for them to select the rebranding logos and just additional ideas. But we had a lot of meetings. We had a lot of meeting time trying to strategize how we were going to do this in an effort to reduce the expenditures and also to brag about what we're doing. We did not meet. We met the July and part of the August dates, and then it stopped. So the last part here, my recommendation at this time is to terminate this initiative for now until we can re-strategize where we are going to move and how we're going to do that. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Mr. Butler, is that what you said? Are there any questions?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I have a question. Before you came to Southeast Delco, the drop in our balance fund? When did it start? In 2000, what was that, 17?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a building or something, built? I'm trying to process.
So I'm not too sure. I know that I did a quick analysis when I got here because, as I said to the board, I was more than concerned that the district was in a negative position. That is not a good situation to be in. We have, the major part of that is that if we want to do refinancing of some debt that is hanging out there from building renovations, we cannot do that with a negative fund balance. We cannot do that with a $2.5 million fund balance because they want to see that we're being good stewards and that we have a savings account. And that's how we can collateralize borrowing additional money. They need to see that we're serious about making sure that the district financially is sustainable. And when you go into a negative position, that clearly tells folks that we're not there.
So in 1 year, we went from 7 million to 2 million.
Well, in 2 years. So 16, 17, we
Right,
ended
okay.
it, yeah, 2 years.
So was there a building built? Or
No.
are you saying that we had to pay a loan off?
No,
Did I misunderstand what you said?
I know there were a significant amount of capital projects that had occurred because they were emergency. There were some failed boilers, and I did present an analysis maybe a year and a half or shortly after I was here, because I needed to find out what was going on.
Right.
So there were some capital items, capital projects that needed to take place because those areas and some of those buildings needed attention. So there wasn't a plan to borrow money, so it was decided that fund balance would be used. And then there were some other expenditures that were contracts for a variety of scenarios that I don't believe panned out the way they thought it would be.
Thank you.
And even during that time, thank you, Dr. Winder, there's indication and documents that 21 positions were reduced during those years, and that plays into some of the challenges that we have now. When you find out, when you look at how some of the classes are structured and the need to have more instructors, more teaching staff. But then the challenge is that you can't run in a negative position. So you have to make do until you get out of that situation. And any questions? Because I just have one. Oh, I'm sorry. No, because mine is going to jump to rebranding again. But
You were talking about the taxes,
yes,
and on your slide that adds the assessment values being increased,
yes.
I just wanted you to give us an example. If our properties are assessed and we don't make any changes to our percentage of school tax, would I expect to still pay more school tax simply because of the assessed value?
Yes. So
Okay.
when I say that the neutralization process is, and I'm going to make the numbers really simple. So we increased taxes $100,000. And the $100,000 was based on, let me just see if I can get it, was based on this 1920. So the $957 million was linked to and equated to did I say $100,000? Yeah, 100,000, so I'm just doing simple numbers. So $100,000. So I still had to take the $100,000 and recalculate it into the 1.5 billion, right? So that's why you see this number down here is negative, because I could not, you're not permitted to exceed the taxes from the previous year when there's a reassessment. The number has to be the same. Now, that's in total. Now, if my home was assessed at $150,000 in 1920, and they went through, they may have seen that I did some renovations or just the market value, they may say that $150,000 home is now worth $300,000. So that $300,000 house will get higher taxes on that individual property. But then there are other homes where the assessed value went down. So they don't get a tax increase. In fact, their taxes go down. So it's a whole balancing act. But at the end of the day, I can only deal with $100,000 in total.
As a reassessment.
Right. So this is commercial properties as well. When you look at the industrial park that's on the other side of Delmar or Hope Road, so you look at those properties back there, that's where that $1.5 billion is coming from, for the most part, is from the commercial properties. And the other part of the challenge in Southeast Delco is that we don't have enough commercial properties. We can't develop, we can't come up with an economic development plan for the different municipalities. But let's say they were to make this part of the plan to bring commercial properties down this corridor here. Well, you do that, and then it has a positive impact on residential taxes. So you may look at some folks will say that if you're out in Haverford or in Lower Merion, real estate taxes are less if you compare it to a house similarly priced. And that's because those townships have Lancaster Avenue all the way from Cedar Line Avenue up to Villanova. Or they have Darby Road all the way from, going out to Lower Merion, coming back to the end of Westchester Pike. Then they have Westchester Pike. So you have all those commercial properties that are offsetting what residential real estate taxes are. So.
Mr. Butler, did the school district have anything to do with the reassessment of the properties?
Not at all. That is county-driven, and there are 15 school districts in Delaware County, and all 15 school districts were reassessed. And none of the 15 school districts had a say on that we don't want. They could not say, don't come into our district and reassess it. So it was a county-wide reassessment. You're welcome.
Hi. You also gave, on page 10, you went through and you gave the charter school analysis, which I just wanted to be clear, the cost of a charter school student versus the cost of a district school student. Can you just make that very plain and vanilla?
The charter school calculation is...
For one kid. For one child. Just.
Oh, it's for one child. For one child is probably close between I'd say 10,000 to up to 12 would be, but it's not.
Yeah.
There's a different calculation when it's a special ed kid. So in this case, the special ed kid, you can say special ed student, and this goes for, and this is just factual information when I say it. So a regular ed student isn't identified of having the need for special instruction, whereas a special ed child may be, right, or is. So there are different categories. So it could be emotional support, it could be speech and language. So if it's speech and language, it's just speech and language. So it's just given unique or a special attention to that student, right? But it's not that that student has a special placement. So when you look at that $39,000 or the $41,000, the charter school isn't necessarily spending that much on a student that has speech and language. They may if it's emotional support or some type of special placement, but they're certainly not. So that's why you've heard different conversations about revisiting the charter school calculation, and is it beneficial to school districts? Another point of reference is when you hear commercials, a lot of the charter schools will say it's free it's a free education. It's your option. Clearly, it is not free, because wherever the student's coming from, the taxpayers here are paying for it. So it is not free. They are considered public schools, but there is a financial impact, a significant, as you can see, a significant financial impact on public school districts.
Thank you.
Mr. Butler,
I have a question. Go ahead.
so where do you chart the monies that we are paying for the transportation of the charter students?
So in the calculation, there are certain expenditures that are taken out before this number is calculated. So the transportation is not built into this formula. That is a direct hit on the district. And it's not in this it is deducted, like our transportation costs, if it's $5 million, we take that out of this calculation before we come up with those numbers. And there are a variety of other things that this calculation does not include any of the federal dollars. So it doesn't include Title I revenue, the ESSERs. All these numbers are taken out before I calculate that number.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Regarding our funding, in addition to ESSERS, who are best like funders?
We have federal dollars. We get, there's IDEA, that's a pass-through through Delaware County Intermediate Unit. We have Title I, Title II, Title IV funding. Again, all of those dollar amounts are spent down to the penny. We give nothing back. They're primarily the federal dollars. There are some other grants, like we got one for a GEAR grant, and I think that's also combined or part of the ATSI funding, and they're unique funding sources for special needs, instructional attention at the high school, and whatever other school building would be identified.
Okay, so would you say there's significant, like, private funding?
Oh, there's no private funding.
No, okay,
There's no private funding coming into the school district.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Butler, how much is for one student to go to charter school for the year?
Yeah, this year, it's going to be $13,173 for a regular ed student, and then $41,983 for a special ed student.
For special ed?
Yes. And again, so you can see in this analysis that some of the kids are coming back. And now I'll get back, if there are any other questions regarding that, I'll get back to the rebranding. Again, that was the part of the movement of rebranding to get this number down. Because, as I said, the last budget discussion, that we can't count on looking for or receiving additional revenue from the government. So we have to take a different approach and reduce the expenditures. We have to assume there's not going to be any more revenue from the government.
Well, why would we stop rebranding then? Why would we stop that initiative?
Okay, so this will wrap up my rebranding, I guess my rebranding conversation. So when an organization is rebranding, it's with purpose, right? And the purpose is to make sure that, as I said earlier, that you're bragging about what it is that we're doing and that we're showcasing what we're doing. And there's a lot of showcasing that is available. Part of the other piece is that we launched a new website that would allow us to be more savvy, give us the flexibility of putting things up, taking things down, moving them around, that kind of stuff. So all this stuff was falling in as one package. But the key to rebranding is how, I said it earlier, how we're presenting ourselves as an organization. And look at it from this perspective. Every time there is, whether it's an administrative meeting, a board meeting, committee meeting, a school-based meeting, it is a brand that happens every single meeting. Am I making sense? So every meeting we have, that day, the district is rebranding itself, every single time. So it's not, the fact is that over the last couple of months, that every meeting we've had, look at it in terms of the district just rebranded itself on that day. And then there's going to be the next day. So if we were to continue with this direction, it's going to be, it's not going to be, it's going to be counterintuitive. And it would be money spent and time spent until things change. We could rebrand and spend a whole bunch of money, and it would fall flat on its face. And it'd be a waste of money. So from my perspective, then we're not being good stewards of public funds, because we know. I mean, we know that this is not going to work out. Intellectually, we know that. So that's why I said that right now we'll just terminate until we have further discussion about how we're going to move this organization forward.
Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
all right. Parent-student advisory? And policy.
Thank you.
So both will be pretty quick. Parent-student advisory, there really is no update. We had a meeting that was reported on at both October meetings. We will be looking to hold our next parent-student advisory after the turn of the year in early 2023, and we'll meet probably in December to do the agenda and post on the website and start putting out robocalls for that meeting. We try to do about quarterly for the year, so you can look for that coming up. As far as policy, you have the agenda in front of you. As you recall, last meeting, we had a couple of policies that went into adoption because of second readings. They were all about training and safety, naming Mr. Roznov as the Act 44 coordinator. There was also discussion about dress code and cell phones. There were items for discussion as part of that meeting. And then for this month, there's been no new release of the Policy News Network. That also comes quarterly, so I would expect that in December. You will see on your agenda for next week a second reading of the meetings policy, which was requested by the board, mainly about announcing those through the global messaging system in advance of the meetings to get more people to come out and participate. There are no first readings for this month, and there were no items for discussion, unless board have questions about other policies.
I just had a point of clarification. During our last meeting the meeting from last week, we took on a position of modifying how we engage with the public by allowing students to just say their name in school.
Yes.
And that was a policy draft that we reviewed, but we didn't, I don't remember which meeting we approved that, but I wanted to ask for clarity, is that's still in the pipeline, or is that something that was approved at some point?
So I have to confirm that date. So the conversation around that was, it was requested to be brought up, and it was the discussion about whether students should or should not give their address or maybe just their school. My recollection right now off the top of my head was that it went to a first reading. I have to confirm if there was a second reading. If there was a second reading, I will get you that date. If there was not a second reading, then it needs to come back to the board if the language is okay and come up for a second reading vote. But off the top of my head, I don't know if that ever made it to a second reading or not.
And I believe the way it's expressed on the website is the draft of that first reading. It almost looks like it was updated, but it was not.
That's possible, I have to look at that, yes.
So the old policy should be out there for clarification, so everybody's on the same page.
So what usually happens through board docs is there is both an active and a draft book. The active book is the approved policy. There's also a draft book that once you're done, you can move it from one book to the next. So I have to look if it's active versus draft book, if one's in the wrong spot, if one just has the wrong date. I just don't have it off the top of my head to give you the definitive answer without going back to board docs and looking. But I will. Sure.
I would like for us to try to set up some sort of policy committee. At the conference, one of the classes I attended highly suggests if we have the people to try to engage in like a policy committee, so it's not like, all on you, because we have a lot of policies, especially within like the 200 pupils code, 218 and all throughout, that haven't been reviewed since 2007 and 2013. And I think we really, especially in the climate that we're in right now, we have to revisit those. It's imperative. So if we can just, all of us can, try to figure out if we can do if anyone's interested in creating a policy committee, because those things are imperative. It's a whole slew of them that have to be looked at, especially now.
Right, so I don't disagree.
Right.
So that's the board's purview.
Right.
If they want a policy committee, we can have that discussion. I will tell you, there's a difference between reviewing something and not changing it, and then actually changing something and adopting it. The board as a policy committee, and Cherie was there, and Teresa was there, and I think Dawn, went through every policy in the book about 2 years ago, almost line by line. If we want to do it again because times have changed, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to help with that. But I don't want anybody in the public to think that process hasn't been done since 1407. It was just done since Doc's been here.
It started August 14th, 2020,
Yeah.
because that's when I moved my
We
daughter
took one
back to
series,
school.
the 000s, did it a month. Next month was 100s, then 200s. It took us about a year to get through. But if we want to do it again, that's, okay. No, that would be a board discussion, but tell me what you want me to do.
Excuse me, can I throw something out there? With all these new situations that we're coming across in today's society, I think that maybe we should pull the policy pertaining to what's going on and focus with that and start from the beginning. Does that make sense or no? Hello?
Could you repeat it, Dawn? Dawn, could you repeat what you're saying?
You see how we just had a couple incidents recently? We can go to that specific policy, make changes, and start from the beginning of all of the policies.
Yeah, agreed,
That's what we need to focus on.
agreed.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah. Thank you.
Next up, property.
Good evening, everyone. I have several items. None of them are voting. Again, just wanted to put a reminder out there that we are scheduled for a power shutdown next weekend at Academy Park High School. That project through PICO and one of their subcontractors should be completed by the end of that day. I did check with Academy Park, whatever's in the calendar, that we don't have anything going on for that day, but I will double check. And we do have an event the next day, so I just want to make sure that, we're covered for that. Just an update as well, we had 5 landscaping projects that have taken place recently. Hopefully, some people here have seen some of them, some of the ones that came out really well. I mean, they all came out really well, but Sharon Hill was a huge upgrade. K Center in the back where the kids play, we were able to plant some grass and regrade, take out some old equipment. And over at Delcroft, the lake that usually forms when it rains, we were able to regrade, reseed. So we're just waiting for that to take hold, but that should really improve, those areas. Last weekend, we brought in a plumbing contractor to help with some of the plumbing work orders that we've been having build up in some of our schools. Nothing out of control, but just wanted to, bring someone in to help support our team. We're currently short a plumber, and I'm working with HR and the business office to get that position filled and situation rectified. Also, my department has been interviewing, and hopefully an offer letter will go out to a custodian position for Harris shortly, and I will be entertaining some grounds interviews in the near future. One of the projects that I had scheduled for late summer that didn't take place was a lighting revamp over at the high school. In working with some local vendors for better equipment than initially what I was going to use and newer products that are available to us. We're looking into, making those lights, the house lights and some of the recessed lighting, retrofitting them with LED, energy efficient light bulbs, and that way we don't have to get a lift out every other year to replace those lights. And just a reminder to a lot of the administrators here who I've been working with and trying to keep in touch that, the next week or two, our outside groups will be in our buildings for basketball and activities. So we're getting ready to start that season. We made some changes, working with security to make sure that we have passes for some of the groups to access the buildings. Most of the buildings we can limit their access throughout the building. So that's, always something we're looking to stay on top of. And that is all I have for property. Any questions? All right, great. Thank you. I was told by the vendor that has the lift that hopefully by next week that's available. And once we get that lift, we'll have it until the project's done. If we need extra support with a, electrical contractor to support us for manpower. So if we can get the lift and within 2 weeks we can get the supplies, hopefully about a month's time, we can get that taken care of. Yes. Yeah, just like we have basketball, that'll be starting with some groups that have, been partners or have used our buildings for years, typically around 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Like I said, several basketball organizations, mostly basketball at this time. I think one track group, if I'm not mistaken, and some other dance, groups that use Academy Park as well. All right. Well, in games as well, but yes. Mhm. Yeah, they all are, yeah, for sure. But no, all the groups have been great. They've all, gone through the process, submitted all their paperwork, and, so far so good. And last year went pretty good as well, so. All right, great, thank you.
Safety?
Good evening. Hello. So for safety, I'm just going to go over a couple of the items that I had gone over at the previous community of the whole meeting, some updates. So for the camera system update, the new cameras are in the process of being ordered and installed for APHS. There's a 6 to 8 week window for that to be completed, and the reason because due to that is for the Evangelon cameras to be ordered and to make sure that they are verified to work with the new server system at the high school, and also supply. So Right now, that window is 6 to 8 weeks to have those 15 cameras replaced. Additional camera licenses that will begin, installation will begin the week of November 14th. Those additional camera licenses are for APHS, K-Center, and Harris. One other camera update that I omitted from here is for the football stadium. Football stadium cameras will be installed on the 23rd or 24th of this month. Door alarms, as I stated before, we had walked through and checked the doors at APHS to see what were activated and alarmed. All those doors are active. The problem is that there's 10 doors that start at the front of the school by the auditorium and wrap around to the rear of the building, to the rear entrance, that are connected to a control panel that are not communicating with the server. That control panel is going to be replaced. It cannot be fixed, which connects with premises. Premises will alert us when a door is being activated. Since there's a lack of there's no communication between that panel and the server, that panel has to be replaced. There's no time frame for that to be replaced. We are keeping on top of it though, so I'm hoping to hear some update. But they are active, so every single door does alarm. It's just not communicating with the system to make us aware of it. For window armor, update for window armor installation, measurements were taken on 10/30 for the alternative school and APHS for fabrication installation, and the target date for that installation is during Christmas break for those additional units for window armor. And any questions?
I do.
For your doors,
Yes.
it's important to keep our students safe in our buildings. You said there are 10 doors that's not activated?
No, they are activated. They're
They
just
are
not-
activated?
They're just not communicating with the server. That's why the control panel has to be replaced.
So is anybody around those doors to make sure?
Guards are do rounds throughout the day to check exterior doors.
They are doing rounds, you say?
When they are available, yes, they do rounds.
When they are available? What you mean by that, when they are available?
If they're not addressing any issues that are occurring inside the school.
Jeez. So if they are, then that means that the door is available for anybody to come in and out, correct?
No, those doors aren't accessible that way. They're exit doors. Unless somebody would exit through the door, obviously.
Or let somebody in?
Right.
But that's my concern. I mean, my number one concern for the students are their safety. Should be number one. So my thing is, so if the security are busy doing other things and you don't have enough staff to cover these doors, then what do you suggest? What can be done?
Well, I think in the last 2 weeks, I have made sure that we reviewed what was going on with the program, why there wasn't a activation in 2 weeks.
Right,
So I'm being proactive with trying to find out what the issue is. And also, I'm in the middle of interviewing additional security staff. for
Oh, well,
hire.
that's good then. Well, I mean, I know what you said 2 weeks ago. Okay, so now that we are 2 weeks ahead and we still don't have no doors that are really secure where there's nobody can come into the building, that is my main concern. So, my thing is, I'm just really concerned that if your security is busy doing other things, then, the students can allow other people from outside to come in.
There are cameras on those doors.
Okay, so
Meaning
they
that they-
still
they-
could come in, I mean, whether you see who they are, but they still could come in, to do damage. So that's my main concern. So what can we do to cover that?
Mr. Rosnoff, could I just
Sure.
interject here?
Sure.
So as Mr. Osnoff had said earlier, that he's sending his team of people around to those doors that are in question.
Right.
The other thing that, as he had said earlier, that he's interviewing for additional staff, and he has recently been in contact with a contractor to bring in additional staff to hold us over this period of time until we get this thing in a better position. So he's being very proactive.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I understand that. Huh?
So.
Oh, yeah, I
Right.
understand that,
But-
and
So-
I'm
so
not blaming
I-
anything on you.
Let me just.
I
let me just-
understand what the concern is, but
Right.
it is being addressed.
Yeah,
I
so
know
it's being addressed with high priority. Everything that, seriously, everything that we've been doing over the last school year, the last couple of months, the last weeks, is we're taking it as high priority to move this thing. But it takes a lot of conversation to make sure that what we're doing is going to be effective.
Right, but see, that was my main question, because like he said, and like I said, I'm not blaming anything on you. I'm just concerned about the coverage. He said that, that somebody can cover these doors, not unless something, other activities is happening, or it could be a fight or something. So if security get their attention, who's covering these doors? That's,
Well, that's just it. So then the big picture is that we're trying to manage students that are creating issues in the school
okay,
buildings.
okay,
They're the students that are going to be opening up these doors, letting other people in.
right.
So it's a whole combination of us trying to manage and juggle things, given the staff that we have and the resources that we have. And again, we're moving very seriously in this direction because, quite honestly, we really want the conversation to go away. Because it's
Right.
taking up
Exactly.
in a significant amount of time, and we're real serious about having serious conversations with folks to know and looking at all the different areas that are creating these issues.
Right.
And there has to be consequences in order to
Absolutely.
eliminate this from happening.
Absolutely. That's what I'm looking for, Mr. Butler. I'm not blaming anything on any administrators. I'm just trying to figure out what is being done. How are y'all handling it? That's it. So so when I asked you, if y'all are busy doing other things, as far as the chaos that's going on, so you're telling me that you guys got it under control to make sure that these doors are covered?
To the best of our ability, given the specific things I just said.
Okay.
The security team is running every day.
I
I've been
know
going
they are.
over to the high school. I was over there this morning just to check in
Right.
and just keep in contact with folks. One, to make sure that folks are okay.
Right,
And that they're
exactly.
not completely exhausted every day. But people are running up and down hallways.
Okay.
Until we get this thing. But the serious part of it, the serious part of this conversation is managing the students.
Exactly.
and
That's all I wanted to know.
And what's coming into the building.
Yes.
And I'll leave it at that.
Yes, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
I have a question.
I just have a question about, I can't remember, I asked this question before about a security person at Knights Academy. Are we working on that, or do we?
We are. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, the resource officer.
Right. We're looking to have a resource officer there through Collindale.
Okay, all right,
Yes.
thank you.
Could I just get a quick clarification on the cameras?
Yes.
Just so I'm understanding, even though you're waiting on 15 to be replaced, that is less than 25% of the cameras that are in the building, and none of the cameras that need to be replaced are on the exterior doors.
They are not. It's internal. Yeah,
And it is less than 25, like, you still have plenty of working cameras in the
Correct.
building.
Yes. So yeah, those cameras that are not functioning are internal. It's not the doors. You're welcome. So, and as soon as that panel is replaced, then the alarm activations for the premises system won't be an issue. So it's just waiting for supply line and for the contractor to get that control panel in. That's it. But we'll follow up, by the end of this week and next week again. So we are on top of it, so. Thank you. You're welcome.
If everyone who was able to give a report tonight in these paper copies, if you could please email these to the board as well, and also your committee reports from last month. I really love getting the reports, but I'm like a non-tree killer, and I'd rather have them electronically. So when you guys are sending them, once Dr. Winder approves them, could you please share them with the board as well? And then not provide me paper copies at the committee of the whole? I'm more organized if everything is electronic. And Dr. Winder did send me your September reports.
So, just so we don't waste paper, are there other people that do not want them copied?
I need hard copies.
Okay. Okay. We are now going to move back to our old business, which was our special meeting follow-up from all the various meetings. So, you want me to do these first? Get these three. So we're going to start with some comments from the community, if that's okay. Raquel Irons from AP Assembly.
Hello, Raquel Irons, 83 Burnside Avenue, Sharon Hill. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm up here quite often with complaints, but I also will get up here and tell you what was right, or what has been done that was right. And I would like to say, Dr. Winder, thank you for this week. I attended the AP Assembly, Mr. Vogt, Mr. Lee, Mr. Hooven. I have one of my students, I attended the assembly with him because I had to wait for him. And I can say that the assembly, I attended one of the 11th grade assemblies, and those students did get the assignment. You couldn't hear a pin drop in that assembly. They were very, they were very attentive. And I think the actions, or what we're coming up with, the plans for the students, as far as, and Mr. Vogt, I guess, will share with parents, but as far as the competitions, the friendly competitions, and being on their level with the TikTok competition, and I think they were very good ideas, and I applaud your whole staff for that. I also want to say I am in the high school. I still have a office in the high school. I'm in there quite a bit, and I can say Dr. Winder was patrolling the hallways today, up and down the hallways. This is something I saw with my own eyes. So I want to thank you for that, for being there. I want to piggyback off of what Mr. Butler says. I see him all the time there. Ms. Reddick Smack there. I even saw Ms. Hudson there today. I didn't get a chance to say hi, Ms. Hudson. I just want to say that I believe we're off to a good start, and I just want to thank the administration and to let the community know that they are trying. They did hear us, and as much as my mouth is up here, they are trying. The other thing I wanted to say is, Mr. Rusnoff, I call him Mr. Jeremiah, we do see you. Mr. Jeremiah, we see you working. I see you working hard. You are there with security. Not every time I walk through the door, normally you're there because I'm like fist bump, whatever. So I just want to say that, thank you for coming on board. Thank you for your hard work, and I just want to say thank you.
Jesse Preisendorfer?
Good evening. It's nice to see you all again. My name is Jesse Preisendorfer. I'm a math teacher at Academy Park, and I'm here with our AP staffing update and the impact of this, and a little bit of goodish kind of news, and following a request. So we still have a lot of open positions at the high school. We have 2 teachers who are supplemental, which means that they're not teaching something they're certified for. And we have 4 or 5 teachers who are out on extended leave. So what that means is that there's a whole bunch of kids that still don't have a permanent certified teacher in their classroom. The impact of this is that our resource room is understaffed consistently since the beginning of the year. There are days when it is closed. There are blocks when it is closed. This is a problem, especially because we've lost a couple of special ed teachers very, very, very immediately recently. So resource room availability is listed in 99% of our IEPs. So that's a problem. We just found out tonight at 5 o'clock that 3 of our English classes are going cyber. We at least have a solution for 3 of our English classes, but the solution is that we're putting kids on the computer to do cyber work, which means the rotating cast of subs that's going in there is going to have to learn how to do this cyber program to help them out and make sure that they're on task and all this, all that stuff. There are 5 or 6, possibly 7 Bio 1 classes which are under non-staffed at this point. This is a Keystone course, and a couple of these have been understaffed since the beginning of the year. So the goodish news is that we have teachers who've been volunteering to create lessons for some of these classes. They've been volunteering to grade these lessons for some of these classes, and they teach on their prep. They teach these classes on their prep. Most of them are under the impression that they're going to get paid at some point for this because there's conversations going on and there's a plan. The chemistry teacher does have an MOU. We're finally getting money in his pocket for that, so that's great. So I'm up here to make a respectful request that we expedite the communication with these teachers. There are a lot of teachers who are willing to do this extra work. I'd like to show them that we value them and not ask them to continue to volunteer. They have a lot of experience, they have a lot of education and power behind them, and it'll create buy-in if we start giving people, start valuing them and giving them money to do work that they've been previously volunteering for. Thank you very much for your time this evening. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Sean Thomas?
Good evening, everyone. How you doing? I actually didn't plan to speak tonight. I just wanted to share an idea that I have from a friend of mine. But I will say that I do believe in y'all, the board, and I believe in the staff also. I believe we got a solid group of individuals, but we got to get rid of the ego and our own dogma sometimes and open up our chests. You know what I'm saying? That's going to make for the winning team right there. You know, so sometimes you guys got to look at them pieces and say it might not be going right now, but we got the right pieces. We just got to get rid of some ego here and some dogma over here, and we're going to get it. We're going to win. We're going to get it together. So I believe in y'all, you know, but just like any good staff or any good team, you got some veterans and you got some young guns. We need some young guns up here now. We need a couple young guns on the team. You know what I mean? Everything just can't be from back in the day. You got to mix some old with the new. You know what I'm saying? But I will say this. For everybody go back and look at whatever was spoken about tonight, because I just got here maybe like 20 minutes ago. So I heard something about budget and then some policy stuff and then the security stuff. So that's all I heard so far. But go back, look at the tape, and then I see some people writing some stuff down. Look at what you wrote, and then ask yourself, how does this enhance the quality of life for these children at the school? These things that y'all coming up with, how does it? You know, is it going to change the culture? You know, the atmosphere, the curriculum? How do these things that we come, does it change the quality of life? Because it's about them. It's not about us. It's about them. You know, we keep coming up with things that make us feel good. Put some more cameras. Give me some more security because it's making me feel good, making me feel safe. But this don't do nothing for the children. I was of that first generation where they was putting those metal detectors and cameras in the schools. I graduated in 1999 from Martin Luther King High School in Philadelphia. And I remember going home telling my mom about that first day and how I felt. in ninth grade. Like, I don't feel safe there when I go in there because of the environment. And it wasn't the people, it wasn't the students. It was that wine that and then they checked my bag. So I was a good kid, but when I went in there, I had to turn dangerous. Because the cameras didn't make me feel safe. It made me feel like criminal, like I gotta be dangerous in here. Because why do you need that if it wasn't dangerous in here? Why do you need all of this? So I can tell you this, the budget, if you think you need $1 billion, you're still gonna lose because you ain't dealt with the real problem. If you speak their language, it can cost you no money down. But if you keep not talking their language, it's gonna cost you a lot. Mistakes cost a whole lot. You won't need the budget. You can just take whatever they give you, but we got the right coaching staff. So we don't need a lot. We gonna get this thing right, you heard me? But you gotta resonate with the children. Change the curriculum. What's going on right there? You know, we just can't have one medication for every disease. What they doing for cancer is different. What they doing for diabetes or anything else is different. You got to deal with it different. They coming in with much more financial, emotional, spiritual baggage when they come in. So you got to deal with that. And the way to deal with that ain't just chain them up and beat on them and give me some more security and this and that, because I don't feel like it's going from Academy Park to Academy Correctional Facility overnight. That's what it's going from. Just like my school went from Martin Luther King High School to Martin Luther King Correctional Facility. And I felt like they were just preparing us for something else that inevitably or eventually a lot of my friends wound up going to if they didn't die. I did not feel valuable. I'm just trying to be real with you, man. I'm just trying to talk real words with you. I don't have no fancy education. I've never been to college and none of that, so I'm trying to talk real with you, and this is what they need. I got 42 years on this earth that gives me the right? 42 years of experience. That's my degrees right there. I've been through it. I can tell you what they do. October 13th, I spoke at a meeting. Y'all was there? 2 weeks before the riot. I told you all what was gonna happen if you made that move. Guess what happened? What I told you what was gonna happen. I told you they was gonna tear this place up. If you make that call, that's a bad call. It got ignored. Then look what happened. I'm telling you now, the calls you fitting to make again is gonna turn out bad for you again. If you don't deal with the children and what they're going through, and you gotta fix that. That's the real issue. There's a lot going on in America. Whatever y'all looking for in hiring people, you're probably not gonna find it. But you're not gonna find it. Not right now in this country. But what we got here, if we stay here and we work, if we actually treated ourselves with love and respect like an actual community, we could fix the thing. And stop acting like I said, 3 different gangs. Parents is a gang, the children is a gang, the staff is a gang, and we don't like, we don't like nobody. We had a standoff with each other, man. But you got a secret weapon, you got me. And you get me for free. You get me for no money, why you not using me? I'm a father in the community, I'm telling you, I come from that generation, I know what they thinking. So all the fights and the anger is just like prison. They're not doing that just because they have no outlet. There's no outlet, man, for them to get this thing off. So what happens? I can't fight the COs because that's big trouble, but if I fight the person next to me and the desk next to me or the cell next to me, whatever, it's a little charge. But they don't have they can't talk to nobody, really. Everywhere they turn, somebody yelling at them, somebody trying to chain them up. You gotta really help them. I know a guy I talked to today, he actually did 33 years in prison. From 19 to 50-something years old, his name is from Virginia. He tours around the country and he speaks to grade school children, high school children. He's got like 50 million followers on YouTube. I spoke to him today. He's willing to come to the high school and speak to the children here at the high school, just about everything. He's got a world of knowledge. And I say this before and I say it again. If what you're teaching me not making me feel valuable outside of the school in my community, then I'm just gonna tear it up. I don't care how long you sit in that classroom. I don't care how much money you bring in. I don't care who. When I'm sitting here, I just feel like this stuff that you're teaching me is not helping me, man. I got different problems than the problems he has, or she has, or they have. I'm different, and you got to treat me exceptional because I'm different. If you keep trying to ignore that, you're going to keep getting the problem, but y'all keep trying to ignore that. I'm an exceptional people, exceptional person with exceptional problems. You must fix that. If this was a hospital, that's how they would treat that. I got stage 4 over here. He just got a sprained ankle. The hospital stops for this guy that's dying right here all the time. We got to help him, help them. But again, get rid of the ego and your dogma that you grew up with, that your mama put on you, that was wrong. We don't like to say it because it's our mama and our daddy and our grandmama, but it's wrong. It's different now. The things they ate 75 years ago, you really can't eat today. Everything changed. We can Zoom you into a meeting now. We couldn't do that 100 years ago. TVs changed, cars, everything changed. School is the exact same. It's just boring as hell. I don't learn nothing there. We got to get some stuff in there that really help these children. But what they're going through, it makes them valuable. So read your notes, look at your tape, and say, what does this do for them? Probably nothing. Again, this is like another wasted night and everything. If we're afraid to deal with what's really real, just say what's real. And we can fix it. If you're afraid to say what's real, we can't fix nothing. I'm not afraid. But you special. I feel you special. I feel your spirit. I know it is. I know you want to help. You special too. But come on, bring them qualities out for these children so they can see how special they are and not feel like they just criminals, man. And people gonna call the police. And if you call the cops and they beat me over the head, oh, you finna have a problem tomorrow and next week. Because you call the police on me and you already know what they gonna do to me because of my skin. You already know what they see when they see me. So why would you do that? You ain't watching TV? You ain't see the 1960s and the 50s and the 70s and the 80s, and when you call them folks up on me, what you think they come here to do? Give me a hug? His only reference to me is what he see on TV. He never grew up with me. He don't know that there's doctors, lawyers, engineers, scientists in my neighborhood that look like me. He just think I'm some thug because that's what he see on TV. He think I got a gun? No, I don't. So treat me the way you would treat your children when you see them. But I ain't really want to get all like that. But like I said, and I want to get this done right away. This guy is willing to come talk. I know Mr. Watt, I see him right there. Yes, sir. But like I said, you got a special secret weapon. Myself, I was a hip hop and R&B writer. I probably wrote some, I'm about to say some of y'all favorite songs, but y'all children's favorite songs. And now I own a restaurant in Wilmington called Go Vegan Philly. Another thing we should change at school is what they eating. Your capacity for learning is all based on what you're eating and what you put inside. So if you're eating garbage, you get that back in return. So we must change a wise man said, if you ever want to know how good a school is, don't go in the classroom. He said, go in the lunchroom, see what the kids are eating. On that diet, they can't sit still, they can't think. You gotta fight that off. You gotta get that out of there some kind of way. So I'm an advocate for that, changing what the children are eating. And that's gonna help, their capacity for learning and everything. But that's what I do now. So I know I got some friends, I know some people. I can make calls all day long, as busy as I am. I showed up. I'm showing up tonight. I'm going to show up always whenever you need me, whenever you call me. And I'm going to show up with a gift. I got ideas, and I know they're going to work if we try them. Please don't ignore me. Please don't just discount me. I'm here. You know what I'm saying? But we got to work together, though. You got to look at me as a human being with some humility, some love and respect, and we can get it cracking. Like I said, I don't have no fancy education, no fancy vocabulary. I just talk straight words, man. 'Cause I know you dig the straight words. You feel me? So let's just go ahead and get it. You got my number. Everybody can get my number. I'm always here. You know what I'm saying? You got that mask on, but I know you smiling under that mask. I see you smiling under that mask. I like you too. You know what I'm saying? So let's go ahead and get it. Please, please, please. I got this guy, but he's very busy. I want to get him here this month. He's from Virginia, D.C. area. Like I said, he spent 33 years in prison. He got a world of stories and knowledge for these kids. Just give them some people they can really identify with and resonate with their spirit. And they really start to look at y'all different and say, okay, they really trying to, do something here. You know what I mean? Just little stuff. You don't have to do just little stuff. You take the little step to little stuff, and then it'll just grow, grow, and grow. And we can change the culture here at Academy Park and really turn it around. But we got to speak their language. You know what I'm saying? All right?
Marietta Wesley?
Good evening. I just want to say.
Your name,
I'm sorry. Marietta Wesley, 424 Westmont Drive, Collindale. First thing, I want to extend my thank you to the school board as well. Not just to put the whole thing on you guys. We as parents have to take our part too. They can't do it alone. They are the educators. But we as parents, it's our responsibility to discipline our children. It made no sense what happened last week. Regardless of what the situation is, there are rules to follow, and they have to take responsibility as well. Granted, there was a decision made at the last minute. I feel as though the parents and families should have had a longer time, maybe let's say starting January 2023, the hoodie situation would have been in effect. But that's neither here nor there. But again, it goes back to us as parents. We are to send our children to school for an education, not to sit in class with hoods on their heads. That's not how you learn. You have to be respectful, adults. Even at the meeting last week, you had children talking to adults disrespectful. And parents were sitting up there, yeah, that's right, that's right. That's not, this is what the children feed off of, how the parents act. And if you want your child to have an education, you got to pitch in too. Show your child that you are just as concerned for their education as this school board is and their safety. Dr. White, I don't know you, but I've heard great things about you. And if we want something for our children, we all have to work together. Parents have to work with the school district has to work with the parents. We have to meet together. That's the only thing and the only way things are going to get accomplished. We can't sit over here with, that's not how it works. If we're here for the benefit of our children, that's what we're here for. Like this gentleman said, put your egos aside and whatever else. We have to work with Dr. Widener. She came here to help our children. And that's what needs to be done. We are in a fight for our children's survival. Thank you.
Thank you.
Francesca Barley?
Hi, everybody. Francesca Barley, 418 Lafayette Ave, Collingdale. I really didn't expect to speak here tonight, but I do kind of want this question answered at some point. So I believe in August, I got up here and I spoke about clubs within the school. And I asked if we could have more quality clubs. And, you know, I do know we have the staffing issues. So things like FBLA and mock trial and things where kids get exposed to competitions with other kids in the county. I spoke about, I think it was in the summer, either July or August, I spoke about that. So we are now we're in November. We don't have one club started in the high school. So now we're through a whole semester. We don't have kids in any activities. The kids that were doing activities after school last year now can't be in anything. I think I did reach out to Mr. Vogt about this, and he said, you know, we restructured and clubs are going to be during the day now. I don't really think that was a smart idea moving forward, only because we don't have teachers to even teach classes. So the ones that are teaching classes are now subbing classes during the day. So that block period where they're supposed to be running group, how are they running group if the other kids don't have teachers for classes? So I just think that the kids are missing out. And then we have seniors this year who want to put that on their resume to get into college, and now they have a gap in the clubs. And especially if you are going to a school that's more competitive, they're going to ask why there was a gap in clubs. Like, why were you in this club this year and not this club this year? The other thing I want to say is we just went through a whole election cycle. And last year we had a Young Democrats Club, and we didn't get a chance to even go through the fall, to even let the kids get an opportunity to even volunteer with some local politicians and get out there and knock on some doors. So that's stuff that the kids should have been exposed to, but they haven't. So I just kind of want to know what the plan is moving forward in the school with clubs and groups, because this is just stuff that's really just not on par with anything in the county. We're probably the only district right now that doesn't have clubs up and running. So thank you. I would just, if I can get the answer emailed to me at when it's going to move forward, thank you.
Okay, you'll receive communication from Mr. Vogt. Okay. Okay, Ms. Monroe, I think you were about to ask a question. When we was gonna go to old business. Okay. All right, so we are at follow-up from the special meetings at this time. Any?
I don't know that I have a question, and this may just be follow-up for some of the topics that had come up during those meetings. And just in general, are all of those topics or some of those topics a part of our comprehensive plan or things that we're working on, and just how they are being addressed? Some of those questions came up tonight in policy conversations or whatever. We talked about teacher shortages and so forth, but there were some other issues that arose also, such as, for example, the board communication and working together as a team, and we're going to address that. But are you asking about other things outside of that list, or?
So, at the last meeting we had, it came up that there were some things, I guess we started meeting like October 13th, if I'm not mistaken. And then we had something else the 27th. And so I just want to make sure anything that is public, that was handled in the public, that we needed to answer. I know we've been answering things. I know I have a book that I just started where I've called parents from the cards that still had questions and responded to them personally. So I'm just not sure if there's something that is open session that still needs to be answered. If somebody's feeling like I didn't get the response for this.
I guess the only question I would have is it okay for either you or the high school administration to share with how we're going to move forward with getting a handle on the discipline and also changing how we handle the discipline for things like insubordination due to now that they wear the hoodies, if they don't take them off, how will kids be punished? Are we able to share that with the public at this time?
So, yeah, I was gonna say, Mr. Vogt sent a robocall, but I know there are some people that are non-parents that would not have gotten that robocall. Mr. Vogt, do you have it, or Dr. Ryan, that you can just read it off? I didn't bring my laptop in. Just,
It's also on our school webpage, the letter that's been read to the students. We've also had grade level meetings with our students all this week as
so,
well.
can, Cherie's gonna,
Yeah,
Cherie's
there's-
gonna pull it
I'm
up
sure
and
you
you can
can-
just
yep,
read it.
right off.
Could you just read it to them? You wrote it.
Yeah, if somebody has a.
She's gonna give it to you.
And also, I do think it'd be great to share, because, I mean, I know Ms. Irons came up and thanked you for all the good stuff that's happening. Can you also share with the public the great ideas and the competitions and everything that Ms. Irons touched on?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. It's been slightly changed each day as the days have gone by. This started to go out prior to Monday's return, where we had seniors. We did a staggered grade level start, and on Monday, our seniors joined us. Good evening, Academy Park High School parents, guardians, and students. Please listen to this lengthy but important message regarding the return to in-person learning at Academy Park High School this week. Beginning Monday, November 7th, Academy Park High School has been utilizing a previously announced staggered grade level return to in-person learning. The schedule is as follows. On Monday, November 7th, only seniors currently attending Academy Park High School return for in-person learning at the high school. On Wednesday, November 9th, seniors and juniors return for in-person learning at the high school. Tomorrow, Thursday, November 10th, seniors, juniors, and sophomores will return for in-person learning. And on Friday, November 11th, students in all grade levels, 9th through 12th, will attend Academy Park High School for in-person learning. Until the day your child is scheduled to return for in-person learning this week, they will participate in synchronous online learning with their classroom teachers utilizing Google Classroom and following their regular day block schedule. Students in classes that are made up of multiple grade levels may be assigned asynchronous assignments to complete until their grade level returns to in-person learning this week. Last week, after hearing the perspectives of students, parents, and community members, the Southeast Delco School Board rescinded the vote to not allow students to wear hooded sweatshirts in school. Beginning on Monday, November 7th, with seniors returning to Academy Park, students have the opportunity to self-govern their behavior and follow the original dress code consistent with the start of the school year. Hooded sweatshirts may continue to be worn. However, hoods and hats may not be worn on the head during the regular school day. Students must take their hood and hat off when entering the building. Any student refusing to comply after receiving a reminder from an adult will have their parents contacted, be sent home that day, and will be suspended from school the following day. Additionally, students found out of assigned area without a pass will have their parents contacted, be sent home that day, and will be suspended from school the following day. These consequences are in place to ensure the safety of everyone in the school and to maintain the school's focus on teaching and learning at Academy Park High School. Informational meetings are being held with each grade level this week to review behavioral expectations, make clear the consequences for choosing not to follow school rules, and answer questions students may have. We will be sharing with students the available resources to appropriately express their suggestions, complaints, and opinions to consistently build on improving the climate and culture at Academy Park High School. Because the vast majority of Academy Park High School students work hard and follow school rules every day, we will also be providing students with an opportunity to harness their creativity by encouraging students to participate in both an individual and grade level competition for the purpose of acknowledging and rewarding students' positive actions at school. Thank you for your continued support of Academy Park High School and for the educational services we strive to provide children. By working together as a school community, we are confident students will be well prepared to successfully meet the challenges and opportunities they will encounter after high school. So those meetings took place with our students. Tomorrow it'll be 3 groups. We broke the students up according to their last name and their assigned guidance counselor. It's easier to get the message across with a group of 100 students versus an entire grade level. We shared the two challenges that we're working with students. So for the month of November, and I do see these challenges continuing, I think the students will respond well, at least reading body language, they responded well. We'll have 9th through 12th grade competing against each other. The grade level that has the least amount of suspensions will be rewarded, whether that's through a special dance, field trip, or the like. We also are going to do an individual challenge. We are very aware that our students love TikTok, and they use that as a creative means. I shared with them that I'm very well, prior to coming here, that I did my own research. And if you look back 5, 6 years ago, many of our students at that time attending the high school did public service announcements that were extremely well done. And so we want to return to that, but using the medium that our current students now 6 years later are using, and that's TikTok. So we've asked the students, they can do individual, or they can partner up with a maximum group of 3 other students, or a group of 4, to create public service announcements that support following the rules at school in a positive manner. And those students would be rewarded, such as, because that's why we limited it to no more than 4, such things as we told them, AirPods, Sixers tickets, of the like. This was money that was told to them at the very beginning of the year when we had grade level meetings. This is money that was set aside for our PBS program, and that's part of the monies we received from the state. So the money's already there. It's not taxpayer dollars, but it's there to support our students, emphasizing the positive within the school.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vogt.
This concludes the meeting for tonight, but for the upcoming events, Committee of the Whole meeting will be, we already did that, I'm sorry. School Board Business meeting will be Thursday, November the 17th at 7 p.m. Board Organization meeting will be Monday, December the 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And that concludes tonight's meeting. There will be an executive session for the school board members and some of the administrative staff. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Committee of the Whole. Have an awesome night.